War II was the first war in history in which science played a major part. And in 1941, my main concern was German radar, because we knew that radar was going to be as important to the Germans as it had been to us in the Battle of Britain. One of my problems was that German radar was very small. And the most important equipment of all, the Wurzberg, was so small that it hardly showed up on any photographs until the end of 1941, when at last, on a cliff just north of Le Havre, there was a small blob which we thought might be it. And a few days later, a Spitfire pilot went out and took a photograph which showed quite clearly that it was an equipment which looked just like a large electric bow fire. Now, although the equipment was on a cliff nearly 400 feet high, it was not very far away from a landing beach, and I wondered whether we might nip in and pinch some of the equipment. The idea was passed to Combined Operations Headquarters, whose chief, Lord Louis Mountbatten, was most enthusiastic. And the proposal was to use the new parachute troops to conduct the operation. And so their training started with great urgency and tremendous secrecy.
We were told that the Prime Minister wished to find out how the training of airborne forces was going. We were to lay on a demonstration for the Prime Minister. They found for us dropping zones similar to the dropping zone we were to drop at. We did a lot of training there.
We thought we were training for a demonstration for Churchill, and we thought the King was coming.
Oh, we've done all sorts of various practice drops and withdrawals down to the beach, onto the assault landing craft.
Without a great deal of intelligence, one could quickly appreciate the sort of project which we were being trained for.
It was so obvious that something was brewing. I think I then got permission from division to tell the men.
And I can remember his exact words, and when he stood up, he said,
"Good morning, men, sit easy. I can now tell you that the story that we're training for demonstration is a cover for the fact that we are to carry out an operation on a target in occupied Europe."
The Bruneval raid was carried out on the night of 28th February 1942 by men of C Company, the 2nd Parachute Battalion, under the command of, as he then was, Major John Frost.
This operation is the seizure of an enemy direction locating equipment codenamed Henry.
The briefing was exceptionally good.
Now, Henry is located on the cliff top.
It was very detailed. We had a beautiful model of the ground. We had a very large number of photographs from all angles.
The lone house is this large rectangular wood.
Obviously, a lot had been obtained from French sources.
Will be known as rectangle.
I can't remember how many nights we braided together when it was scrubbed.
We had to get the right weather, we had to get the right tide, and the lighting had to be right. If we hadn't done it that night, that was the last opportunity for a month.
Eventually we took off in Whitleys.
Our force will consist of 120 men, 12 aircraft in 10-men sticks. The drop zone will be here, with an RV at the corner of this wood.
Go, go, go! They dropped us at a low height. I think it was only 250 feet. And you were sooner out than you were on the deck.
One thing I wanted to do more than anything else was to be. We had all that tea and one thing or another, and nobody reminded us that there was going to be no way of relieving yourself until you got there. Anyhow, having done that, I noticed most of the other chaps were doing the same thing. It was a very bad drill, because you're meant to get straight off to the edge of the zone and rendezvous.
Well, we were so well trained, we were so well briefed, that I knew exactly where I was, terrain-wise.
The containers had like a crushable bottom, and as they hit the deck, a light came on, and we had to form up on that light.
These didn't carry guns, they're not in the plane, they were in a container.
the lights out on the containers. Then we had to get a trolley together and all the tools and equipment which were in the containers.
We got the stuff out of the container, put it on the trolley, like a golf trolley with 2 ropes and handles attached.
And then we went to the forming up point, which is a small clump of trees.
We found that of my particular party of 40, just under 20 were missing.
That's it, sir. No more left. But I'm 20 men short. Who is it?
Charters.
How?
Who had been dropped in the wrong place. And it was some, I would imagine, 2 or 3 miles south of proper dropping zone.
Christ. Right. I think we've been dropped short. We're going to have to go at the double. We'll not wait for any stragglers. Tell the blokes.
When he found that he was a long way from the scene of the action, he was an indomitable man, and he then set off at a steady jog trot.
We thought that they might be not too far away, that they might turn up fairly soon. And so we determined just to go ahead with the plan.
Hardy Party. I will command Hardy Party, and Sergeant Major, you'll be with me. Our task is to clear Lone House. This is a large house in which up to 20 enemy signallers are billeted. On the sound of 4 whistle blasts, we will force our way into the house. Any prisoners are to be gathered on the ground floor, and that's your job, Sergeant Major. Remember the signal, 4 whistle blasts.
Well, we went in through the front door, and there was nothing much doing it, but there's one chappie upstairs, and he's found at the party at the radio station where, you know, disposed of.
Jellicoe Party. Now this is Henry. Peter, your task is to clear the enemy positions around Henry. Now there are bunkers here and here. You have 1 section with which to do this.
We broke into a double then. Our party had stands, Addy, Mackenzie, and I remember him firing from the shoulder.
Follow me! Henry's clear, sir. Please go in. Okay, lads, Henry's clear. Let's go.
The whole thing was out in the open. There was a little cabin where the man sat in, but inside there was only room for him and the display. The rest of the gubbins was in the container at the back. And the radio operator, he went and got over the cliff edge. It's like Dover cliffs there, a hell of a height.
Nein, nicht schießen! Nicht schießen!
The young German we had with us who was an interpreter, he coaxed him back.
He had a blue uniform, so he must have been with the radar. Even if he's a bloody cleaner, he must know something.
Drake Party. Peter, your task is to move towards and take up a position somewhere between Rectangle and Lone House, in this area here, and to provide protection from any reaction from the Rectangle.
We were going to go up there and just lie there quietly. But as we got up there, a German machine gun opened up. So we naturally went to get down and answer the fire.
Rodney Party. John, your task is to prevent with 2 sections any attempt by the enemy to attack Hardy Group from this rectangle, and to support with 2 sections Nelson Party in the event of an enemy attack from this village.
There's a road, look.
I got mark of fire from the officer, Mr. Timothy. He told me to keep ranging the gun. That was the road that the reinforcements would come up. From the direction the crossroads, cut the cavalry, they call it.
Anything comes on that road, hit it.
We just got started, and Jerry put up a white flare.
He's hurt!
Number 2 got shot. He copped it through the knee. You could see figures running and moving about. Our guns were pointing into France. And keep them every so often. Just keep my burst in the trigger, holding the trigger and give it a burst in the trigger.
Dennis, you'll have Flight Sergeant Cox with you and your sappers. You have a maximum of 30 minutes to get what you want, but if you can do it in 10, I'll be a darn sight happier.
There was intermittent firing most of the time, but I was asked to take a flashlight photograph of the antenna in the front. This definitely produced an increase in the fire.
Dennis, how long's it going to take? We'll be about 10 more minutes. Well, hurry it up!
They had to cut the antennae. That was a bit dodgy, and I stood up there and there was tracer and that flying about. I thought, hell, it's going to take me months to saw through that.
We had it explained to us where to look for the various parts that were important. It was really very simple, but then we had a radar expert with us, Cox.
We had a very long screwdriver, but that wouldn't reach the end of the screws because they're recessed in the edge of the container, you see. So we got over the handles and yanked it out bodily.
Right, that's a lot. Let's go.
How's that set?
Still not working, sir.
Right, get back to the house. Tell them to move now.
Yes, sir.
So, Major? Yep. Right, let's go.
We came down the slope to the gully where the Bruneval Valley was laying in. It was a hell of a job to keep your own footing the way down.
We came down to come to the beach and we got held up by machine gun fire from the strong point at the bottom.
Don't come down! The beach isn't clear yet!
And I think Sergeant Major Strachan got 2 in the stomach at that point.
Don't move. Okay, you're going to be all right. Look, I'm going to give you a shot, then we get you down to the beach. Nelson Party. John, your party will be divided into 3 light sections and a heavy section. 1 light section will deal with the redoubt. Ewan, the other 2 light sections will deal with beach fort and with guard room. John, your heavy section will clear a path through these defences and through the minefields to the water, and you will hold that beach at all costs.
We found that of my particular party of 40, 20 were missing. It was charters who had been dropped in the wrong place.
Santasca.
The remaining section of Charters' platoon had a special job to capture the pillbox at the top of the cliff.
My section.
We sent that section off under Sergeant Tasker.
My section, follow me.
But of course, we lost contact with him once he'd gone.
It's bloody empty! 2 of you with rifles! Over there. There. Follow me. Remainder of you, follow me!
We had a sort of half hope that the beach might not be occupied. We were really pinned on a forward slope and being fired at the whole time. We had 1 machine gun with us and he replied, and all we could do was just to return their fire and keep them occupied and wait for reinforcements to come. Very unpleasant half hour. I had hoped to be able to obtain some assistance from the reserve platoon, but unfortunately the 38 sets we had didn't work and were never able to get in touch. In due course, the leading ones from the platoon, Lieutenant Nehemoff and some others, joined up with us and started then to put in an attack. same time, Charters and his troops arrived on the other flank.
Cover fee, you bastard!
Cover fee, you bastard!
It really wasn't surprising that they ran off.
I've never seen such savages, and they were absolutely fabulous.
Grenade!
They could hear these hand grenades going into these trenches, and then they took 2 prisoners.
Get them out! Grenade!
Once the beach has been cleared, a report centre will be established at Beach Fort, and signallers will begin DF transmissions immediately. Once naval craft are heard approaching, DF transmissions will cease and white light torch signals will be used instead. The signal is F for Freddy.
I think we were an hour or an hour and a half late in reaching the beach through this beach not being taken. And it turns out they couldn't even contact the bloody boats that were supposed to take us away.
Hello, Father, this is Freddy 1.
We had no communication from the Navy at all, not their fault. It was simply that our wireless set was picking up nothing. We had the direction set working, but whether the Navy was receiving it or not, we didn't know.
The last and final signal were very light, fired north and south. Those were the very last resort, and still there was no sign of the Navy.
Peter! Captain Ross! Lieutenant Young!
I was rather miserably going back up the nearby slope to try and get people to put in position.
We need all brand gunners back up the top. John, you get some men up there along that edge. Peter, back up to that point. And Peter, you cover the approach.
So that if the Germans did come down doing a counterattack on our, we at least could make some sort of a fight of it.
Which group? Bloody party withdrawing, sir. Right, back to the top. The boats are late. Get your men back up round the top and don't come back until you see the boats.
I think everybody were getting anxious because we could hear armour coming up from one of the villages.
You're right.
Absolute rubbish. Absolute nonsense. Who ever had an armoured column moving with headlights on?
Finally, we spotted these dots coming abreast, coming towards the cove where we were, you know.
Unbeknown to us, there been some German E-boats just passing by further out, you see, and of course our Navy lads didn't come in until the Germans got clear.
The chaps on these landing craft, well, they opened up a terrific withering fire with everything they got, while we still had people on the cliffs. Because this added very considerably to all the confusion.
The prisoners, the wounded, and all the equipment went on the first boat, and then they rushed that equipment back to England, and the scientists wanted it for something.
They all came in together. That was a pretty good shambles. We had drilled very carefully to go in on a properly organised time basis, but as it was, we all had to make a scramble.
Okay, let's go, come on!
And eventually they were persuaded when they got in to stop firing, and there were no further shooting after that. It was finished.
We had trained really hard, and the NCOs had got a very good grip of them, and I think that they were at a pretty good peak.
The key word of that whole raid was security. There wasn't a whisper. When it was coming, where it was going, and when it was going to happen.
It was a shot in the arm. It achieved tremendous publicity, far more than it deserved, because it was a very small raid.
Of course, it was a small raid, but the effects on morale were tremendous. We had shown that we could go back across the channel, pluck out a vital piece of equipment, and bring it back almost unscathed.